Hi there, and welcome to Benchmarks to Quality 2023 Accreditation Quality Standards Revision. My name is Mike Bachman, and I am the Council Chair for the NAFCC Accreditation Council. After this session, we would like for participants to be able to describe what the NAFCC Accreditation Council is and the role it plays in the revision of the quality standards, define for others the quality standard revision process, list examples of the 2023 revisions, and remember how and when to provide feedback on the revised standards. Let's get started with the who is the NAFCC Accreditation Council and the role they play in the revision process. The NAFCC Accreditation Council is made up of 9 members. At least 1/3 or 3 of the members must be current NAFCC accredited providers. This is important when talking about revising the standards. The council makes sure that people who are currently accredited and doing the work that you do every day are a part of the revision process. It is also important to the council that we represent the field of family childcare in terms of our geographical, racial, ethnic, and linguistic diversity. The role of the NAFCC Accreditation Council is to ensure the quality, integrity, and accountability for the NAFCC accreditation system. This means the council ensures that the standards are best practices based on the most recent research. How does the council do this? First, Council develops and approves the policies that govern NAFCC accreditation. For instance, accreditation terms being 3 years, or that accreditation is a 4-step process. These are examples of the policies that the NAFCC Accreditation Council influences. Second, the council provides guidance to the NAFCC accreditation staff. When COVID hit and visits had to stop and turn into virtual visits, and there were options between virtual and in-person visits, the Accreditation Council provided our experience and thoughts to building solutions to these larger problems. Finally, we review the quality standards annually and revise when needed. There is more information about the NAFCC Accreditation Council at nafcc.org under the Accreditation tab. The Accreditation Council will be looking for new members this year. If you are interested, please watch your email, social media, and the NAFCC website. Now let's look at the process that the Accreditation Council has used to revise the standards. By design, the revising of the NAFCC accreditation standards is a 6-step process that engages scholars, researchers, NAFCC staff and volunteers, and NAFCC accredited providers. First, we sent the 2017 accreditation standards to Western Oregon University, where a team of researchers reviewed the standards, compared them to the research in the last 5 years, made recommendations based on that comparison, and cited the research that supports each of the standards. This allows any NAFCC accredited provider to go deeper into the research that supports each standard, or cite the research when making the case for family childcare and NAFCC accreditation. At the same time, the Eco-Healthy Childcare Team, one of the nation's foremost experts in safe and healthy environments for children, also reviewed the accreditation standards under the Safety and Health standard and recommended revisions based on the most recent research. All of these recommendations, revisions, and citations then came back to the NAFCC Accreditation Council, where, for nearly 18 months, the council members reviewed, discussed, debated, and came to consensus on a first draft of the revised standards. That first draft then went to our quality standards review team of early care and education stakeholders, including NAFCC state representatives. The Quality Standards Review Team is comprised of NAFCC accredited providers, coaches, researchers, NAFCC state representatives, and others who work on behalf of young children in the family childcare sector. This team, led by Linda Schumacher, reviewed every standard in the first draft of revisions and provided feedback on additional changes. This feedback was compiled and revisions were made to the standards, creating the second draft of revisions. The examples that we will look at today are from the second draft of revisions. Step 5 is where we need your help. Draft 2 of the revisions will be posted on the NAFCC website for your review and feedback. The Council will include all of the current standards and the proposed revised standards so that you can see the changes. You will then have the opportunity to complete a brief survey and tell us what you think. Once the feedback from this process is embedded in the revisions, we will have the third draft and final draft of the revisions. The last step in the process and another group of stakeholders that we will engage for the final draft of revisions to be reviewed and approved by the NAFCC Board of Directors. Once approved, a plan will be created for rollout and implementation of the new standards. So what do the revisions include? Let's take a look. While we do not have time to preview every standard that is being revised, we can provide you information about what the revisions include and give some examples of each. The revisions largely fit into 3 buckets. Number 1, standards were revised based on recent research. Number 2, citations were added to support the standards. Number 3, language changes, including combining or separating of standards to make them easier to manage and understand. Now we will walk through standards that exemplify each area of revision. On this slide, you can see the current 3.19 standard that states, except for necessary routines and transitions, the provider encourages but does not force children into activities. Most of the time, children can move in and out of an activity, stand and watch, or choose not to participate at all. The Council is recommending that this standard be split into 2 separate observable indicators. 3.19, except for necessary routines and transitions, the provider encourages but does not force children into activities. For example, most of the time, children can move in and out of an activity, stand and watch, or choose not to participate at all. Standard 3.19a, the provider allows or sets up alternative activities for children not interested in group play. You can see that we added references and separated the indicator into 1 measurable assessment at a time. For example 2, we will look at standards 2.2 and 2.9. 2.2 currently states, the environment is arranged so children can use what they can reach most of the time. And 2.9, the childcare space is well organized. These have been combined into 1 new standard under 2.2. The childcare environment is arranged for accessibility based on the age of the children. Accessibility for children under age 3 considers choking materials and safety, whereas accessibility for older children is so they can reach materials independently and return to designated areas most of the time from labeled containers. You can also see we have added citations to support the new standard. Example 3. Current standard 1.16. In addition to ongoing conversations, the provider has a conference with each child's parents, guardians at least once per year. Together, they review the child's progress and needs and set goals for the child. This 1 standard has now been separated into 3 different indicators. The new indicators, 1.16, in addition to ongoing conversations about children's progress, the provider has a scheduled conference with each child's parents, guardians, at least twice per year. 1.16a, the provider and family guardian review the child's developmental and academic progress and needs. 1.16b, the provider, with family guardian input, set developmental and academic goals for the child. Here, we separated indicators and added scheduled and developmental and academic, changed to 2 times per year, and changed to family guardian input regarding concerns. This is so it aligns with best practices that we now know from the most recent research. Citations have also been added, though they are not shown here on the slide. Now that we understand what the revisions entail, we need your time, expertise, and feedback. The revised standards are now posted on the NAFCC website. All members and accredited providers will receive an email when they are available, but anyone is able to provide feedback. The standards will be grouped based on the 5 content areas. Each content area will have its own 5-question survey to gather your feedback after your review. Watch your email and social media as the new revised standards have been released. We are looking for very specific feedback. Please be sure to include in your feedback if any of the standards need more work and which ones. If any of the standards will be difficult to observe and why. If you know of any other research that should be considered in the revision. If any of the standards are repetitive. And if you have any other information that the Quality Standards Review team needs to know. There is also feedback that is less helpful. Please do not include in your feedback whether or not you like the standard. If you have or have not had to meet that standard before, whether the standard is required by your state or not, your personal beliefs on whether a standard should remain. Remember, all the standards are backed up by research, not personal belief. It is also important to know that we will review all feedback that is provided to us. We will also consider all feedback for possible further revisions. We cannot, however, guarantee that all feedback will be embedded in the final approved standards. So, if you remember, we had 4 objectives for this training. We wanted you to be able to describe who the NAFCC Council is and the role they play in revising the accreditation standards. We hope you would be able to define the 6-step quality standards review process. We encourage you to list examples of the 2023 revisions when asked about them by your colleagues, and hope that you understand how and when you are able to provide feedback on the revised standards. You can always follow us on social media at NAFCC. Check out our website, nafcc.org, or email the Accreditation Council at nafccaccreditationcouncil@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining me today and learning more about the revisions for the 2023 accreditation standards. I do encourage you to please provide your feedback using the sections below.